Welcome back to the 5 Fantasy Football Show. As you can see, we're not in the 5 Fantasy Football office. That's because Liv is a little bit under the weather. She celebrated in Milan Chelsea's win way too hard. She's lost her voice, so she's not in the office. So instead, today, I'm going to be bringing you my 5 picks of the week, or 5 talking points around this weekend's games, because I had a really good week on fantasy football. I don't know about you guys at home, but I entered the top 100,000 players overall, the top 700 in 5's fantasy league, which means some of you guys must be absolutely crushing it, honestly. All right, let's get into the 5. We're going to start with Reece James. That's because he picked up an injury against Milan midweek. I'm not going to lie, it didn't look good at the time, did it? And I have to say there were things popping up in my mind about England's World Cup when I first saw the injury happen. Some slightly positive news. I saw Matt Law tweet from the Telegraph saying that he had heard optimistic signs that it was just a jarred knee. We're going to have to see about that prognosis. Fingers crossed it's not a long-term injury, because he is a huge points asset for my side and for Chelsea and for England, of course, in real life. But we have to talk about some potential replacements, because it doesn't look like he's going to be back anytime soon. I'll breeze over the first and obvious one. If you haven't got Joao Cancelo in your side, then what on earth are you doing right now? Seriously, the highest point scoring defender by a mile in FPL, and he will be across the course of the season. Just a casual 18 points picked up last week. He's wearing the number 7 on his back. He's playing left wing, he's playing left back, he may as well play centre mid, up front. He plays all over the pitch. He is definitely one of the best players in the league, a huge point asset. I presume most guys and girls have got him in their team, to be honest with you. Another really highly owned player that we could well talk about in this little area is Kieran Trippier. Upwards of 50% ownership though, so he's not a huge differential, but he is substantially cheaper at just 5.6. He's basically a bonus point magnet, because of the number of chances he's creating, the number of assists he's getting. He's taking every dead ball as well. I think Kieran Trippier is an absolute must. I think the best differential for me is probably William Saliba, despite the fact he has 28% ownership. It's, you know, a lot of people might argue that doesn't classify him as a differential. I think at 5.1 million, given how well Arsenal are defending and how dangerous he is in the box, William Saliba is a really viable option as a Reece James replacement. The issue is that game week 12, Arsenal have a blank against Manchester City, and that is a big issue. You don't really want to be bringing in Arsenal or Man City players this week for this one game, because you then have a huge black hole midweek when everybody else is fit and firing. I wouldn't be bringing him in. I want to hear from you guys at home as to who you're going to be bringing in to replace Reece James, because this is a difficult one. Let's continue on the theme of injuries, because there's a few players that picked up knocks, none more so than Luis Diaz, who is out until after the World Cup following a knee problem sustained against Arsenal. Not a good injury, not good timing for Liverpool either, to be honest with you. He's still got 17% ownership, and I think at that £8 million mark, a lot of people like me still have him in the side in the hope he was going to come good. He isn't going to come good now, because he's going to be sitting out until after Christmas. It's time to sell. But what replacements are out there for him? For me, I think there's 4 key names to be considering at around about that £8 million mark. First and foremost is Wilfried Zaha, obviously on the assist chart last week at just £7.4 million. A great asset, given that Crystal Palace have the best fixture list in the run-up to the World Cup. They've got most of their hard games out of the way. You know, they've played the Chelseas, the Man Cities, the Liverpools, the Arsenals. Now it's time to shine for Big Wilf. Over the next 4 weeks, they play Leicester, Wolves, Everton and Southampton. If ever there was a time you were going to bring Wilfried Zaha into the club as a replacement for a player like Luis Diaz, it is now. Another really good option that Liv just always bangs on about, as do most people, to be honest with you, you've probably got him in your team already, is James Maddison at £8.3 million. He's the 6th highest point scoring midfielder so far this season. Obviously, he put up 30 goal involvements in all competitions last season, and his fixture list looks really, really tidy. I'm looking at it here. Palace, Leeds, Wolves up next. Now, Leicester do have to get themselves out of this rut at some stage, and if any man's going to do it, it's going to be Madders. So he's a really interesting option to bring in as a replacement for Diaz if you've got those funds. I want to talk about two other midfielders that are both valued at 8.2 mil. That's Jarrod Bowen, who's obviously got 2 goals in 2 games since I brought him into the team. Absolutely delighted with my timing of that selection. It looks like he's going to form a really nice link up with Gianluca Scamacca, who is, I suppose, another option if you wanted to free up funds. Go for a cheaper midfielder to replace Diaz and then look for Scamacca in forward areas. The other midfielder, though, is Philip Foden. The highest Premier League point-scoring midfielder on FPL so far this season, ahead of Kevin De Bruyne. And a lot of people will be saying, yeah, but he's a rotation risk. Is he a rotation risk anymore? Phil Foden, he started every Premier League game this season. It feels like Pep fully trusts him now as his go-to guy in wide areas, be it on the right or be it on the left. He is an incredible asset. 9 goal involvements in 9 games. I think at 8.2 million. If you can get Foden in your team, it's a brilliant option. But just to say it again, I'm going to say it again, they blanked game week 12. So maybe think about doing it later because obviously right now they've got Liverpool at the weekend, then a blank. Not the easiest time to come in if you Phil Foden. I wouldn't be bringing him in. I would probably be bringing either James Maddison or Wilfried Zaha in if you haven't got them. Number 3, we've got to talk about it. It is Liverpool versus Manchester City. An absolutely monstrous game, despite the fact that Liverpool are having a really mediocre season, just 4 points above the relegation zone after 9 games. Not at all what Jurgen Klopp wanted. His result midweek, 7-1 against Rangers, is going to give them big old confidence going into this. And the fans at Anfield are going to want to take a scalp here. They are going to want to scout Manchester City, prove that they are still in the hunt for the Champions League. And I'm going to mention the name. A lot of people have dropped him in recent weeks. Mo Salah. Because, of course, midweek, he scored the quickest Champions League hat-trick ever. 3 goals in 6 minutes. Prior to that, I took him out, I think, at game week 2 or game week 3. He wasn't looking like himself. Prior to his hat-trick midweek, he'd scored 9 goals in 43 games in 2022. Those are extremely worrying numbers. Had that little contract situation. The contract was then resolved. And since then, he's just not quite getting into the areas I think Jurgen Klopp wants him. A lot of chalk on his boots. I want to see him closer to the goal. However, hat-trick midweek, Man City at the weekend. This just smells like Salah's going to turn up. It smells like Salah's going to turn up and Liverpool are going to do something. But having said that, I thought the same when they went and beat Bournemouth 9-0. I think they won the next game, but it was a scrape past Newcastle. It wasn't exactly the most exciting and sort of impactful performance. It was a last-minute goal from Carvalho there. So Manchester City will be confident, but Mo Salah, in the back of my head now, is still a problem. As for Manchester City attackers, I've already mentioned Phil Foden. Don't really need to go into Erling Haaland, but I'm pretty convinced they're going to score goals. You know, Trent Alexander-Arnold out for a couple of weeks. Some people might say that is a big positive for the side, given how he's been defending so far this season, but he's such a threat going forward. I think the bigger blow is Joel Matip out for a couple of weeks. I know Ibrahim Konate looked extremely solid against Rangers, but it's a different calibre when you're playing against Erling Haaland, and that is a battle I am excited for. Erling Haaland versus Virgil van Dijk and Ibrahim Konate. Are you mad? That is going to be some game. It's not the only big game on Super Sunday though, so point number 4 I want to talk about is Manchester United versus Newcastle, because there are definitely some interesting picks to be had here, in particular in that Manchester United forward line. Now, I didn't mention him earlier because I knew I was going to mention him in this section around Luis Diaz's replacements, but is Marcus Rashford becoming a more and more viable midfield pick? Absolutely. At just 6.5 million, the value is incredible. It really is incredible to be that much cheaper than the likes of James Maddison, Bowen, Wilf Zaha. He's got 3 goals, 2 assists in the league so far this season. He looked deadly in the Europa when he came on. On the opposite flank to Rashford, you've got an increasingly interesting asset in Antony. Now, I think he's a little bit overpriced. 7.4 mil. I don't see the value of going for Antony over Marcus Rashford when Rashford's nearly $1 million cheaper, to be honest with you. But he is the first Manchester United player in history to score 3 goals in his first 3 Manchester United games. And he does look dangerous when United are playing on the counter. Still a little bit suspicious about him in those 1v1 situations, but when United break fast and the ball comes across from left to right or from right to left and Antony comes into that back post, he is a dangerous asset. So I think he's one to keep your eye on. I wouldn't be moving for him just yet because of that price. But if his goal scoring run continues, we've got to jump on it. For Newcastle, there's definitely a few interesting assets in there. You know, in the forward line, it's really hard to pick now, isn't it? I think that Wilson is an incredible asset there still. Almiron has picked up loads of points so far this season, 44, and is still pretty undervalued at 5.2, in my opinion. Joe Willock is decent value. Bruno Guimaraes at 5.6. Turned up and scored points at the weekend. So there's lots of interesting assets going forward for Newcastle. I think my issue in the front three is I don't know who's going to start every week. We now know that Alan Saint-Maximin is back fit. Does that mean that Almiron's going to drop out? When Alexander Isak comes back, does that mean that we're potentially going to see Wilson rotated? I think it's going to be very interesting to see and tough to pick from that Newcastle front line. In goal, I'm sticking with my selection of Nick Pope, so the highest point scoring goalkeeper in fantasy football so far this season. You know, difficult fixtures coming up, United and Spurs in the next 3, but his amount and volume of saves always gets points. So I'm going to stick with Pope for now. Number 5, captain's picks. We've got to talk about Erling Haaland versus Harry Kane in this position, in my opinion. Harry Kane having a massively underrated season. If it wasn't for Haaland being like ridiculous, freakishly amazing at the moment, then Harry Kane scoring 8 in 9 and getting an assist would be the talk of the town. He's playing so well. He's getting so many goal involvements. His points total is great in FPL, but it's just a simple fact. Haaland is unstoppable. He can't stop scoring. He was rested midweek as well for the Liverpool game. I'm too nervous not to give it to him, because if you don't give him the captaincy and he does score 3 and get an assist or do some madness against Liverpool, who have got a slightly suspect defensive record, then you are in huge trouble, because people will just leave him with the captaincy across the board. So I'm probably going to stick with Erling Haaland, but I want to hear from you guys at home. Will you be moving on and giving your captaincy to Harry Kane for the weekend's game against Everton? He has got 13 goals in 14 games against the Toffees. He's got an incredible record. They are at home, scored again midweek. He looks dangerous. It is a very close call. All right, so those were my 5 talking points from the weekend's action. Just a reminder, the deadline this week is on Friday at 6:30, because there is Friday night football. There is also a game week midweek next week where Man City players and Arsenal players are both going to be blanking. Keep that in your mind when you're making your transfers. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the like button, hit subscribe. Thanks very much for watching. We'll see you later.